Hello, this is Jordan Hofling, creator of Greetings from Duskmire, with a brief announcement before the recording begins. I am actually getting fairly close to reaching episode 5 now, and for this momentous occasion, I have decided to introduce you to the vocal stylings of one Trotcadero. Unfortunately, I don't think I am qualified to be able to perform his voice, so unless you don't mind him sounding like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, I am more than willing to accept applications for anyone wishing to apply to voice Trot. That said, I do hope that you enjoy this recording as well as the previous ones, and thank you very much for your time. That said, here we go. Sharing is caring, unless what you are sharing is poisonous mushrooms. In that case, sharing is punishable by law. Greetings from Duskmire. Listeners, we are going to be abstaining from many of our usual broadcasting segments today due to the fact that we have a new means of transportation in our fair city. Before you say anything, no, it is not a subway. We all remember the last time we had subway entrances appear everywhere in town. We have already learned our lesson regarding unapproved and spontaneously manifested transportation conveniences, and it took forever to drive away all of the subterranean eldritch sandworms. No, these appear to be some kind of bus stops. Now, it took some research by our intern Skitterflitter to determine exactly what kind of transportation a bus qualifies as, and it started with describing what a bus actually looks like. A bus is a large device on 4 wheels designed to carry approximately 3 to 5 dozen passengers collectively from place to place, stopping briefly at marked intervals in an area referred to as a bus stop, marked by what is called a bus stop sign. They essentially work as taxis, but for a significantly larger number of simultaneous customers. Now, this is fairly strange, listeners, seeing as the Duskmire Transportation Bureau never even had their request for these bus stops approved, or have had any bus garages built for their storage when not in use, or have had any sort of transportation-related issues discussed, nor has there ever been a Duskmire Transportation Bureau. Now, there has been some slight concern regarding both the bus stops and the signs making them. Firstly, the bus stop signs don't actually say bus stop, when the aforementioned research indicates that this is a rather key adjective to apply to all descriptions of a bus stop. Instead, there is a strange sigil on the sign. The sigil has been sketched on the research summary that Skitter has given me, and it looks a little like... Well, imagine a pair of right-angled triangles in the shape of an hourglass. Rotate the hourglass about 45 degrees so that the pair of hypotenuses are parallel to the top right corner and bottom left corners of the canvas of your mind. Now, imagine 3 triangles of the exact same shape and size making up a single right-angled trapezoid. Arrange the diagonal line of each obtuse angle of each trapezoid connecting to the hypotenuse to each triangle, and finally, that the top right angle of the lower trapezoid connects to the bottom left right angle of the upper trapezoid, with the entire shape as a whole appearing to be made of 2 right-angled triangles and 2 right-angled trapezoids in a vague cross-esque shape, with the longer sides of the trapezoids connecting as the center horizontal line, and the shortest vertical trapezoid lines connecting to the vertical lines of both right-angled triangles as the vertical line of the cross-esque shape. I don't know why exactly, but looking at it for this long, in my time to describe the symbol, has somehow given me a headache, and I have also spontaneously begun to bleed from my left nostril, as if the sign is being burned into my brain, becoming the creases in the sensitive gray flesh meats and rewriting my very memories as a result. So now, I better not say anything more about the bus stop signs. The bus stop itself should be okay to describe, though, and thankfully, it should also take much less time. The bus stop itself appears to be a semicircle of black glazed stones. These stones are shaped like a large number of right-angled triangles as well, but are arranged in a mechanical-looking claw or horseshoe shape. Terribly sorry. Much like the tangrams young Earth pony fillies and colts are taught to use to help them remember the symbols one needs to visualize to control and master their psychokinetic abilities. But, of note, one of these triangles seems to have a concave indentation. A local scientist, Test Tube, is now on the scene to investigate. Oh, thank you again, Skitterflitter. Yes, Skitter? Oh, it was. Well, thank you. I'm glad you liked the honey I offered. Thank you again for the peanut butter, by the way. It goes wonderfully in my peanut butter blue cheese sandwiches. Listeners, I have just received another press release from Test Tube, well, not directly, but from Skitterflitter, who had just delivered it to me, obviously. He's currently on the scene. And Skitterflitter just gave it. Anyway, he is now on his way to accompany Test Tube at the site where he, Test Tube, is conducting his tests, at the central crossroads of the town, directly across the street from the Spire of Monarchy. According to the press release, there are a total of 5 of these bus stops, one each in front of the 5 spires of our town. Further along the cardinal direction, each is located, with the exception of the central bus stop. The remaining 4 are at the other 4 spires of the city are... Oh goodness, I don't think our newest residents know about those in detail yet. Now, as you may recall, in the past 70 years of our entire city's history, there has been a significant spike in the amount of increased immigrants that have been able to enter in our town, much more than the previous attempts over 40 years ago in which 2 entered. This time we had 3. Well, as there isn't anything new about the bus stops to inform you of currently, why don't we take a brief break from the news for a special bit of city coverage, a little mini-program I've just made up for this occasion. Fillies, gentle colts, non-binary individuals, and vertically bi-gendered individuals, let's take a tour of Duskmire. Our fine city has a large number of shops, houses, and quite a few landmarks, such as the giant rake that keeps on transporting itself directly through a different shop each Fives Day, or the giant equestrian bit made of solid gold that Golden Brown has hollowed out and used as his place of living. But no landmarks are as impressive or as intimidating as the 5 city spires. These giant spires all do their part in generating the magical Argyle barrier that protects our city, and each houses multiple additional functions as well, which are easily understood simply by their names. For instance, the Western Discipline Spire, located conveniently nearby the abandoned immigration center and across the street of Pizza Slice's Pizza Joint, is the official headquarters of Her Royal Majesty's Covert Law Enforcement Agency. Of course, we already know that it is just a front, and is actually a giant labyrinthine death trap designed to permanently detain any outsiders that wouldn't know about the genuine secret headquarters at the basement of Pizza Slice's Pizza Joint, with said secret headquarters being impossible to find without being connected to our Scrying Gen network, which is only possible thanks to the magical crystals we all have surgically installed inside of our necks and spinal columns. Next is the Eastern Culling Spire, where anyone can enter and leave as they please to rent out their very own soundproof emotional release chamber, designed for you to vent out any frustrations you may have and release whatever emotions you may be bottling up in order to be polite to someone that may be very rude to you and your recently adopted daughter about very sensitive topics to each respective individual involved about areas of their respective pasts. You would know what that kind of unpleasant feeling would be like, wouldn't you, Rising Loaf? Really, if she doesn't remember what happened to her before she became made of candy, then she doesn't know. You have no right to prod into her past like this, you rude, mean, insensitive jerk. Over on the southern area of town is the Education Spire, separated into multiple floors based on the variety of teaching areas and arranged by ascending level of educational intensity, starting at the Duskmire Community Elementary School, and then moving upwards through the Duskmire Community Middle School, the Duskmire Community High School, the Duskmire Community Higher School, the Duskmire Community Highest School, the Duskmire Community Re-Education Center, and the Duskmire Community Vocational College. And finally, but most important of all in the humble opinions of a certain radio host, is the Northern Communication Spire. As you might have guessed, The communication spire is the home of this radio station, as well as a large number of other radio stations long since abandoned and yet somehow still broadcasting live shows. Such shows would include the Britannia Broadcasting Network's new radio dramas that are still being released every week, such as the upcoming Season 6 premiere of Doctor Who's that I myself am very excited for, or the strangely avant-garde soliloquies by that McRanter fellow about the strange what-if scenario of our Queen Lycra being the legendary changeling queen Madame Toulet. At least they most certainly should be taken as fictional, because if we are meant to take these claims as genuine, then I'm afraid I must object. Such claims are simply ridiculous, because there is no such thing as insectoid equine replicant monarchs, let alone insectoid equine replicants in general. I mean, really, what's next? Are you going to claim that horse angels are real too? There is an update now on the bus stops. Test Tube, our local scientist, has been able to confirm that the stones that comprise the bus stops are made of a material called bloodstone. With his previous research done as a graduate of the Duskmire Community Vocational College, he explains that bloodstone is a theoretical magical mineral that gives off certain arcane reactions based on the requirement of certain bodily fluids that are used as a magical catalyst. His original college thesis had once stated that it was possible that the catalytic liquid was tears, but through direct interaction with the material, he has revised his theory into thinking that it is perhaps saliva instead. At this point, intern Skitterflitter was seen smacking his own forehead with his left hoof and sighing audibly while shaking his head. He then softly pierced the marshmallowy underside of the professor's hoof and dripped the professor's blood onto the bloodstone, which then began to glow softly. "Blood activates bloodstone? Of course!" shouted Test Tube in reaction to the reaction. At that point, Skitterflitter once again smacked himself on the forehead with his hoof and sighed audibly, just as the bus appeared from an ovular dome of light that ascended from the road, which then descended once more into the earth, while leaving the vehicle to rest in front of the bus stop. Visual observations made by Test Tube indicate the following conclusions. The bus is shaped much like a giant sphere, or perhaps an orb. The bus is also suspended by pure black wheels, presumably 4, yet as one circles the orb, while the orb retains its circular shape, the wheels begin to skew in perspective until they are practically non-existent from what is presumed to be a direct front or back view of the vehicle. Due to the unique nature of the wheels in this regard, Test Tube has noted that the wheels may, in fact, be exactly one molecule in width, resulting in the phenomenon. The bus itself glows with a brilliant internal white light, yet it also appears as if the spherical transportation unit was translucent, save for that internal light source. Any attempts to touch the orb are met with slight resistance by the vehicle, with key symptoms including the curious observers convulsing in a crumpled heap of pooling spittle and red tears. The only one that seems to be able to touch the sphere at this time is Test Tube himself. His reasoning behind this strange exception is because it was his own blood that triggered the reaction, and theoretically, if anyone else at any other bus stops used their own blood, similar buses would appear at those bus stops. "However," he continued, "it is very, very important that no pony does such a thing at this time." Wait, did I say no pony? I'm sorry, I meant nobody. At this point, the station management, who was nearby the area while taking their day off, coughed audibly, which is rather impressive for a sentient patch of malevolent mist in the vague shape of a pony with imposing glowing purple eyes. "Oh, my apologies. No one," he concluded. "Oh? Are you sure, High Commander?" "Yes, sir. Right away, sir." Listeners, I have just been informed via my own Scrying Gem's radio resonance that the Covert Law Enforcement High Commander has requested me to immediately describe what I am seeing through the use of altered perception to see through the eyes of Ocular Volunteer and Intern Skitterflitter, whom will also fill me in by speaking loud enough for me to hear him. This is my first time doing this, listeners, so please be patient with me as I just... Oh my gosh, that is brighter than I expected! Holy sweet! Oh my gosh, I'm very sorry about that, listeners. You might have gotten briefly deaf from that. Sorry. The visual perception just kicked in, and apparently the shift starts with an intense, blinding whiteness that fades into the perception of the volunteer. Hopefully, in the event that I end up doing this again, that I will have gotten used to it and will not spontaneously yell into the microphone. Also, if I inadvertently stated any profanities, that no one below the legal age will have heard them. I am looking around the area now, or rather, Skitter Flitter is looking around the area now to give me a better view of the situation through the perception of his visual conal area. There is quite a crowd here. Oh, there's fructose syrup. Hi, Honey Drop. Sorry I can't talk right now, but Daddy's still at work. I'll see you at home, okay? Don't touch the weird glowing orb on black wheels that look like they're made of paper, okay? Thank you. Okay. Skitter Flitter is now explaining out loud that the bus has just opened its door as if the face of the sphere had some form of dilating triangular robo-sphincter. His words, not mine, listeners. And before Test Tube could enter, the Saddle Arabian, which I may remind you is the pinto pony that wears a plastic saddle, stirrups, and a very gauche fez, with the claim that he is in fact Saddle Arabian and not a pony, has now pushed Test Tube to the side and leapt into the doorway to investigate. Oh dear. The Saddle Arabian does not appear to be leaving the orb-like bus right now. Wait. Yes, there is something leaving now. It is a rather tall-looking, long-faced Pegasus with incredibly large golden wings. It appears to be wearing a rather gauche fez and a plastic saddle and stirrups. This pony has yellow eyes, what appears to be a solid pearlescent carapace and exoskeleton, and a glowing ring of darkness over its head, with its central point hovering directly where the tip of a unicorn horn would be in relation to the body shape and size of this pony. Never mind. It's gone now. On an unrelated note, the High Commander has asked me to remind you all that horse angels are not real, and that you should not listen to them because of the lies that they speak. And now a group of ponies in silver skin suits, with question marks embroidered over the face masks, are requesting that everyone leave the area. Yes, a pair of them are now spraying the bus stop bloodstones with a thick green fluid that is beginning to coagulate into a solid mask. At least that's what I think what's happening. Skitter Flitter is observing this all from remarkably high up, and I can only barely make out some of the individuals in the crowd shrugging it all off at intervals before leaving the scene. There are a small group of them attempting to converse with them. No. It appears that they are now slumping onto the ground. And yes, some of the silver-skinned suit ponies are now taking them, placing them into large, ovular, green sacks, and then dragging them away. So now the scene is completely clear. Well, it seems that, unfortunately, Test Tube will not be doing any further investigation in the bus stops at this time. But the covert law enforcement agency has apparently reinstated the usage of rickshaw taxis as a substitute, so long as nobody goes out of their way to chip the transparent green ichor off of the bus stops, everything will be completely safe. Or as safe as it can get. The universe as a whole is ridiculously dangerous, thanks to the evolutionary processes that resulted in a combination of wild animals and potentially natural inanimate objects, like crocodiles, timber wolves, stalactigers, stalaglions, and alicorns. Sadly, we didn't have time for a letter to Queen Lycra today, but I'm sure that next time we will be able to have fructose syrup recite one for us. That will be very exciting. I'm looking forward to it. Stay tuned next for an eventual block of text complaining about a lack of originality, hypocrisy, and overall redundance in the creative writings based on a popular combination of two franchises, and how the fandom of one of those franchises has gone downhill due to atheistic misogynists. Until then, good night, Duskmire, and good morrow. Greetings from Duskmire is a fan audio podcast that is based off of the franchises of My Little Pony, and Welcome to Duskmire. Welcome to Duskmire is copyright to Commonplace Books, and My Little Pony is copyright to Hasbro. The voice of Duskmire is Jordan Hofling, and Greetings from Duskmire is produced and written also by Jordan Hofling. If you like this fan audio, then thank you. If not, then too bad. I'm going to keep on going for a few more episodes. Isn't it amazing how a pre-recorded and by proxy unchanging audio message can still find a way to be capricious? Weird.